Salt Hill winds. The wind that crossed the salt hills of Western Australia carried a kind of loneliness that no one could name. It brushed past the red soil, the scattered eucalyptus trees, and the empty sheds where the sea once touched the land. In that quiet town stood a small weathered house, its white paint peeling, its windows often open to let the wind through. That was where Mrs. Rena lived, the mother of Liam, my classmate. I began visiting their house in my last year of school. At first, it was to study together, though Liam rarely cared about books. He liked the beach more, the smell of petrol from his father's old truck, the promise of things far away. His mother, though, she was always there. Calm, quiet, her hair often tied loosely as if the day was too heavy to hold together. Rena had been alone for years. Her husband, a fisherman, had drowned somewhere near Geraldton. The sea had taken him without a trace. People in town stopped talking about it after a while. But every time I saw her hanging washed clothes in the yard, I could feel that silence, not empty, but full of memories that refused to fade. At first, I never looked at her for long. I was just a boy who came to borrow a textbook, drink tea, and leave. But over time, something grew in me, not love, not yet, more like a pull, a quiet awareness that she was someone who carried the world differently. Her voice, when she asked if I'd eaten, her hands when she poured tea, they had a grace that made the air around her softer. Sometimes, she would sit by the window as I studied, reading an old magazine. The light would fall across her face, and for a second, I would forget the words on the page. I never said anything, I didn't know what it was I wanted to say. It was just a warmth I carried home each evening, one that stayed long after the wind had cooled. One afternoon, it began to rain. Liam had gone out with his friends, leaving me behind. The rain came hard and sudden, the kind that makes the tin roofs sing. Rena asked me to stay until it stopped. She sat across the table, watching the drops race down the window. I don't remember what we talked about, maybe about school, maybe about the sea, but there was something in her eyes that day, a tired kindness, like she understood things I hadn't yet lived through. As I left, she reached to hand me an umbrella. Her fingers brushed mine, light, accidental, but it stayed with me longer than it should have. That night, I couldn't sleep. It wasn't desire, not really, just confusion, guilt, and the sudden knowledge that the world was more complicated than I'd thought. After that, I visited less. I told myself it was because exams were near, but the truth was simpler. I didn't know how to look at her anymore without feeling that storm again. Still, I caught glimpses of her, in the market, at the church on Sundays. She always smiled, the kind of smile that said nothing had changed, though we both knew something had. Months passed. Liam got a job up north, in a mining town. Rena stayed. The house grew quieter. Sometimes I saw her walking alone by the salt flats at dusk, her scarf trailing in the wind. I wanted to call out, but I never did. Then one day, she was gone. A neighbor said she'd sold the house and moved east, closer to her sister. She hadn't told anyone, not even Liam. I rode my bike to the hill that overlooked the bay. The sea was pale and endless, the sky fading to orange. I thought of her hands, her voice, the way the rain had sounded that afternoon. It felt like something inside me had been lifted and hollowed out at the same time. Years later, when I passed through that town again, her house was gone, replaced by a new one, brighter, louder, unburdened by memory. But every time the wind came in from the west, carrying that faint salt smell, I remembered her, not as someone I loved, but as someone who taught me what it meant to hold something close and still let it go.